In a recent statement, US President-elect Donald Trump issued a stark warning to the BRICS countries, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and also the newly added members who are Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates, that he is going to impose 100% tariffs on their goods if they proceed to plan with establishing a new BRICS currency that can rival the US dollar. This is being viewed by Washington as the single biggest direct challenge to the dominance of the dollar in global trade and finance. Trump's assertion that he would impose such drastic tariffs raises questions about the practicality of imposing such tariffs. The idea of imposing a 100% tariff is seen as unrealistic by many economists and trade experts. According to the Global Trade Research Initiative, GTRI, such tariffs will likely backfire. If anything at all, it would end up harming US consumers the most by raising prices on imports and thereby disrupting global trade. The GTRI has also emphasized that retaliatory tariffs from big BRICS countries could significantly impact American businesses and American consumers. They will simply move their exports to other countries and thereby raise prices for American consumers. Also, if Trump were to implement these tariffs, it is highly probable that BRICS countries would respond with their own tariffs on American goods. This could lead to a trade war, further complicating international relations and potentially destabilizing the global markets. The interconnectedness of modern economies means that drastic measures like imposing tariffs could have far-reaching consequences beyond just the countries involved. The push for a common BRICS currency stems from a couple of motivations. It of course seeks to reduce the dependency on the dollar. Many BRICS countries are seeking alternatives to the US dollar to try and mitigate the risks associated with American sanctions. The dollar currently accounts for about 90% of global trade, making countries vulnerable to fluctuations in American policy. There's also the economic sovereignty argument. By creating their own currency or using local currencies to settle trade, BRICS countries are hoping to enhance their economic sovereignty and thereby reduce reliance on Western financial systems. Countries like Russia and Iran have been significantly affected by sanctions that have restricted their access to international banking systems like SWIFT. This has prompted them to explore alternative financial mechanisms. The exclusion of Russia and Iran from the SWIFT system has had severe implications for both their economies. SWIFT is crucial for international transactions. Without access to SWIFT, these countries face significant challenges in conducting trade. For Russia, for example, following its exclusion from SWIFT since the start of the Ukraine war, it has now redirected much of its oil exports initially meant for Europe. It is now exporting a bulk of its oil to Asia. It is seeking new markets, but there is also significant logistical challenges. Now, in turn, what's happening is Russia is exporting to Asian countries, and most of these Asian countries are reselling that same Russian oil refined into third destinations in Europe. Thereby, they're simply rerouting global oil trade. Similarly, Iran has struggled with its economy under American sanctions, which restrict its ability to engage in international trade. This has led to both countries, Russia and Iran, to advocate for a more multipolar financial system that does not rely only on the dollar. But here's the catch. The dollar remains the most dominant reserve currency in the world. It accounts for approximately 60% of all global foreign exchange reserves and over 90% of all international trade transactions. This dominance of the dollar has persisted since World War II, and that makes it challenging for alternative currencies to gain traction without significant changes in global economic dynamics. A reserve currency is a foreign currency which is held in significant quantities by central banks and by governments as part of their foreign exchange reserves. It is utilized for international transactions, for investments, and also to settle debt. The most prominent reserve currency is the US dollar, which has maintained its status as the world's primary reserve currency since the mid-20th century. The dollar became the world's primary reserve currency after World War II, following the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, which established fixed exchange rates linked to gold. But over the years, America has weaponized the dollar. The actions of the United States have pushed many countries to seek alternatives to the US dollar. The US has a history of leveraging its influence over global financial systems, like the SWIFT network, to impose unilateral sanctions. By blocking countries like Russia and Iran from accessing SWIFT, America has effectively weaponized the global financial infrastructure, forcing other countries to find alternative payment mechanisms. While the idea of the BRICS currency is appealing to some member states as a way to counterbalance the dominance of the dollar, there are significant hurdles, one of which is internal disagreements. There are varying levels of commitment among BRICS countries regarding the establishment of a common currency. Leaders like Russian President Vladimir Putin have indicated that while discussions are on for a common currency, there is no immediate plan to issue such denominations. There's also economic conditions and priorities of BRICS countries which vary widely. Aligning these diverse interests into a cohesive monetary strategy poses substantial challenges. For example, India happens to be a founding member of BRICS that now has 9 member states. The US dollar has been the world's most used currency since the end of the Second World War, before which it was the UK pound. Most countries use the dollar for 2 primary reasons. 1, as a currency to hold foreign exchange reserves, and 2, as a currency for trade and other global transactions. The IMF's Currency Composition of Official Foreign Exchange Reserves, or COFA, has pointed to a gradual decline in the size and share of central banks holding dollars, and also of government foreign exchange reserves. But here's the catch. The reduced role of the US dollar has not been matched by corresponding increases in the shares of the other big 4 currencies, which is the euro, the yen, and the pound. Significantly, the IMF has also said that the one non-traditional reserve currency which is actually gaining market share is the Chinese renminbi, or the yuan. Its gains match almost a quarter of the decline of the dollar's share. The Chinese government has been advancing multiple policies to promote the internationalization of the renminbi, or the yuan. China is very keen to assume a dominant role to use the BRICS against the United States, but countries like India, Brazil, and South Africa are much more keen to work with the US and settle differences amicably. Trump's threat of imposing 100% tariffs on BRICS countries highlights the complexities of international trade relations in what is increasingly a multipolar world. While his statements may serve as a negotiating tactic and not actually a concrete plan, it does underscore the growing tensions surrounding the supremacy of the dollar. The feasibility of such drastic tariff measures is questionable. They could provoke retaliation, which could then escalate into a much broader trade conflict, and ultimately that would harm both American consumers and global economic stability.